Sasquatch, Ghost, Dogman, aliens, demons, shadow people, skinwalkers, even the Fae. Our universe is vast, dark, and wrought with infinite unexplained phenomena. We have tasked ourselves with assisting humanity in finding the keys to unlock the mysteries that abound in and around our world. What we intend to reveal behind the curtain of darkness may very well invoke those fears long tucked away in our memories. We will meet that fear head on as we strive to shine the light of understanding on these phenomena. The goal is to arm you with the power of knowledge to confront and even combat these entities. We welcome you to join us on our quest. We are Midwest Night Watchers.
Hey, good
Hi,
evening.
everyone.
Good evening, everyone.
Glad you all can join us. Hope you're all having a great weekend and a great Father's Day and enjoying family and everything.
Yeah, happy Father's Day.
Tonight we have a special guest. We have Brown Dwarf. And as you all know, or hopefully you know him, and he's got a presence on TikTok and all kinds of social media, YouTubes, and all over social media with Bigfoot research, and he dives into all kinds of paranormal and UFO and aliens and
You name it.
you name it, he's in it, and he'll let us all know and talk to us and describe everything he's got going on, and we'll get into some deep subjects and possibly other stuff, and we'll let's see how this night goes and share everything we know. So help us welcome Brown Dwarf.
Hello,
Greetings,
Brown
greetings.
Dwarf. Hi.
How
Greetings
you
and
doing?
salutations. Here we are. Wow.
It's good to see you.
Likewise. How's the audio over on my end here?
Everything
Sounding
looks
good.
Yep, everything looks good.
Cool. You guys are sounding good over on this end as well. Thank you for the invite. Yeah, super excited. Happy Father's Day. Happy Father's Day, Gerald. And to all the fathers out there and to all the mothers that are fathers as well.
Yes.
We're hanging out here over at Mom's place here in Southern California. Got the whole family here. It's a packed house, so I'm tucked over in Mom's office here, and I got a nice little setup.
Awesome. Yeah, we're down in our basement. We got a little studio, kind of a little studio, I guess you'd call it, set up, and this is where we go for our quiet place.
Yep.
Nice. Yeah, no, I like that, and I would call it a studio, not kind of a studio. And it's good. It's good to have a space like that. I want to be able to eventually have a designated space where I could broadcast from and everything. You never know. I'm always on the road or going somewhere, and so I'm always on the fly, and sometimes I gotta, you'll see me. Some of my interviews have been inside of the restroom of the shop, or I'm in some random place somewhere sometimes, and it's all good. But yeah, no, it'd be cool to have the studio going one day.
Yeah, I remember you were live a couple weeks ago and you were in your shop.
Oh yeah.
And then you said, hold on, here's a customer. So you put us down for a while and you took care of the customer and then you came back. That was cool. I really enjoyed that one.
Yeah, you got to multitask there. And the shop's been a blessing. And it's been, quite a cool space for us to really express ourselves and have the community also express themselves. So that's been fun. And I've been, I don't know if you've heard talks about me wanting to, hopefully that'd be a good space to do the studio. And not only for what we do, but even other stuff. We could get into, some of the products that are in the shop, some of the skateboards and different things like that. I think that'd be fun and educational as well.
Yep.
but yeah, so yeah, been busy with that, and then also just staying busy on the YouTube, and started the TikTok not too long ago, and things have been going pretty good there, and the YouTube I've always kind of more focused on like my own explorations and then documentations and stuff like that, and it's all very grassrootsy, no professional stuff yet, but I like it like that. I like the grassroots of the independent citizen type work. You don't have an organization or some sort of group or society that you owe allegiance to or anything. You kind of just get to do your own thing, and I don't like to tie myself down to anything. So like you mentioned earlier, one of my favorite topics is the Sasquatch topic, and but with that I feel comes so many other things. You mentioned UFOs and the paranormal, and yeah, I've always been fascinated with all that stuff, growing up in Southern California, Hollyweird out of all places. Yeah, it's always been a trip, and I'm sure you've heard of all the weird stuff about Hollywood, and a lot of it's true. And there's a lot more weird stuff going on, and yeah, it's been years since I've really tapped back into the community out there. I grew up in the area and lived in different parts of Southern California also, and eventually made my way up to Northern California, to an area known as Humboldt County. Some of you or most of you may know, and Humboldt was just a big different experience for me here in California, just in my life. It's so different than Southern California, and in so many ways. Also, it's geographically, culturally, and even like historically. But yeah, it's still part of California. But they up north, they seem to like want to separate themselves from the rest of California and the world. It seems like. um, but yeah, I've learned a lot, living up in Northern California. I've always been into nature and the mysteries of life and the paranormal and the weird stuff, and Hollywood was a perfect place for that. There's obviously the movies and music and shows, and obviously I guess entertainment you call it, but within that entertainment was also the paranormal and this occult side to things, and you'd see it in the movies, like I said, in the music. And I remember hearing about certain things when I was younger, about certain movies, that there was certain meanings behind it, and or that there was certain things happening in some movies. Like I remember hearing about ghosts being in certain movies, and sort of like strange things that had happened during movies. I think I just heard recently someone was talking about Poltergeist, and I think it might have been on SOR or something like that. And just it was another podcast actually, I think. But anyway, the tragedies that happened surrounding the filming of that movie Poltergeist, and just things like that. I've always been fascinated in the weird things of.
Yeah, we're like that too. We watch all the movies we can, when they
Uh-huh.
come out streaming anyway. And
Right.
we've always followed, the older movies, like you said, Poltergeist, with all the horrendous stuff that happened to the actors, and you always talk
Right.
about the little girl and the stuff that happened to her. And we
Mm-hmm.
watch all the Marvel movies, especially for soft disclosures, for red pills, and
Sure.
we really do think that they disclose a lot in those movies, and you just got to pay attention to see what you see, and
Mm-hmm.
put the information in your own aspect, and see how it fits a piece of the puzzle that you're trying to grasp, the whole picture of what's going on.
And I've
Of
heard
course.
stories about some of those studios being haunted and while they're filming some of these, either shows or movies, and things happen on set. So yeah,
Yep.
I've heard about some of the hauntings around there. It's
Yep.
interesting.
Yeah, you hit it on the head there. Yeah, I've heard of certain studios being haunted, and some of these studios that are were nearby where I grew up. And you also hear about, like I mentioned, certain films. There's one, Three Men and a Little Baby. I don't know if you remember
Right.
that one. There's supposedly the ghost of a little boy in that. I've also heard, which one was a pretty trippy one, was the Wizard of Oz. There was
Yep.
supposedly a scene where I think one of the Munchkins had hung himself or something like
Yep.
that, right?
Yeah.
And just trippy things like that. And so, moving fast forward now with the internet and everything, and always being into this trippy stuff. And my brother, my younger brother, is just like having another one of me, and he's always been into the same thing. So he's always bringing information and having his own experiences, and we've always shared stuff. Yeah, kind of lost my point there, but yeah, no, just tripping out on all this stuff. Really just opened my mind to things. So yeah, fast forward with the internet and everything. I started learning about a lot more of symbolism in the Hollywood and movies and all this stuff. But not only in that, in mainstream media, but also in ancient cultures, and where were these some of these symbols and some of these even you could call them spells or um, yeah, just things, rituals, even like that, were coming from, some of these ancient cultures, and started diving into ancient cultures, and yeah, even asking myself, who I was, where do I come from, and who are we, and exploring all that. I learned about different things, that happened throughout the world, that supposedly happened throughout the world, and so yeah, I've always been interested in his story and her story too, and yeah, so I think it all plays a role. And just how, I wonder, yeah, do some of these producers and some of these artists and stuff, how is it that they are, do they have this knowledge, or are they part of these occult societies? Where are they getting this information from? Or is it the universe actually manifesting these things through their art and stuff? And I think it's a mixture of everything. And so yeah, just always been into this stuff. So up in Northern California, a lot of the people there. So I talk about the culture. A lot of the people there, there's indigenous tribes up there. There's a lot of open-minded and free-thinking people also, and with that comes just a lot of what I call groovy people, man. Interesting artists, and just a lot of creators, and a lot of just powerful positive movements, just that back to the land movement was big. A lot of the hippies had moved up there after the big San Francisco acid wave, some call it, or whatever, and just that whole lifestyle is still present up there, and I pray that it continues, because a lot of it has been lost with the legalization of cannabis and stuff like that. A lot of those families and that culture has moved, but it's still there. I don't think it's going anywhere. But it was very strong at certain points, and from what I hear now, is just things have really changed, and yeah, business is another thing too that has changed up there. A lot of this businesses and communities are struggling now, because a lot of it was funded because of the cannabis, and things were really booming there for a while. And things, from what I hear now, have really changed. A lot of storefronts are closed,
Mm.
and just a lot of people struggling, and so that really sucks. And so I would really wish that a lot of people would go visit more, not only for that, but there's a lot of things. I mean, the redwoods, there's a beautiful ocean, there's awesome communities there, um, and there's obviously the presence of Bigfoots, and
Yeah.
so there's yeah, you could go out there and try and have yourself an experience if you'd like. I do recommend going there if you're trying to do that. And like we mentioned, with that comes along a lot of other strange stuff that we'll get into later. But yeah, a lot of those communities could use those dollars, and we have a lot of places, stores, and businesses that uh, sell a Bigfoot paraphernalia. There's a lot of
Mm.
everything from wood carvings, because you're in the redwoods. There's a lot of awesome redwood carvings, which is a bummer that some of these trees get cut still and all that. But whatever, we gotta balance that out too. There's some hardcore people, man, that fight for their redwoods and totally believe that logging should stop and everything. And yeah, I think everything in moderation, but we have logged a whole lot, so we got to really be careful and conscious of that. And yeah, so we have the Willow Creek Museum also. There's a little museum in the county, where you could see some of the, I do believe they have some of the original cast of the Patterson situation. For those that don't know, the Patterson Gimlin footage was taken on the border of Humboldt County and Del Norte County, which is a neighboring county. And it's literally like on the line of those two counties, if you want to be technical. But it seems like Humboldt gets the most of the props for it. And Del Norte County does have its activity as well. It's funny to think that sometimes we think like states and these borders would keep these beings like separate, like it does us people. But no, I think these things roam and with no borders, and so they could be in different counties, and it doesn't matter to them. So yeah, so there is a lot of activity up there. I truly believe, due to my experiences, and also I always mention the BFRO reports, and I mention BFRO because it's pretty much the biggest database we have to refer to for Sasquatch reports and stuff, right? And they've been in hot water recently due to some of the reports supposedly being edited and stuff like that. And I don't know how true that is, but I do know someone that has submitted a report, and they said that their report wasn't as they you know submitted it. And so that just kind of raises red flags. And
Right.
I do have friends that are part of the organization too. I have gone out with several of those guys, and man, let me tell you, these guys are cool. I consider them good friends and trustworthy, and especially being out in the field. Being out in the field, you got to be around people you trust, and yeah. So I'm very careful about who I go with, and who I surround myself with when I'm out in these places. And then yeah, you
Right.
meet a lot of new people too, and but yeah, it's good to be aware for sure. But yeah, so a lot of activity in Humboldt County, and it's weird to me because you hear about it in the Bigfoot scene, here and there, people that know, but there's a whole lot of people that have no idea. And there's a whole lot of people in California that don't know about Humboldt County. It's just so far up there. It's nearly at the top left corner of California on the coast, and so it's like, just, I guess it's out of sight, out of mind. But there is people up there. There's people do live there, and but yeah, no, I just love the terrain. So it's just, like I said, you got the redwood forest there, and it's just a bunch of hills around there for the most part. Uh, for the most part, wooded as well, and then you have the beautiful coast, and there's a bunch of microclimates in between too. So like, depending on where you're at, northern or southern part of the county, or inland or towards the coast, they all have these little special little microclimates. And from what I've heard and some statistics that I've seen, is that for California and Humboldt County, is that they seem the Sasquatches seem to concentrate in areas of high precipitation. So the reports are scattered throughout the county, but they seem to concentrate in and around the Hoopa Reservation. Okay,
Hmm.
and that is pretty much, it's a trip, because you would think towards the coast there would be a lot more precipitation, but Hoopa is a bit inland from the coast, and so it gets very hot and dry during the summer. And but when it rains, it does rain, and you're in a rainforest. And but we have had our continuous years of drought going on, so that's been an issue, and the rivers have been suffering, and the fish, and the trees have been suffering. It seems like, I don't know if it's even some of the chemtrails or what's going on, but it seems like a lot of tops of the redwood trees are starting to get singed and burned by something.
Right.
We're noticing that here in the Midwest. It looks like pine trees and other trees. There is just so much of them dying off.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's really scary and sad to see, and I know the bark beetle was an issue too in California. I don't know if you guys get that out there, but there's a beetle going around that was I guess killing a lot of the trees, and
Oh, wow.
and yeah, I don't even know if they had got a control on that or not, but there's that, and yeah, you still see logging going on. You still see those rigs
Right.
driving by with those big old logs of redwoods, and it's kind of crazy. It's like, wow, they're still logging. But yeah, I don't know how all that is going. I'm sure it's toned down, obviously toned down from what it was before. But yeah, people talk about the logging and Bigfoot, and how that could be a reason why this is being kept under wraps, or why it hasn't been disclosed. And I think it's a good reason. I feel that is definitely a good reason to keep things hush hush. And I do know I have met someone not so long ago that actually went to Humboldt State, and she was part of the, what is it, um, the owl, was it spotted owl that
Oh
was
yeah.
endangered. Yeah, she was part of, I think she was involved in all that, and yeah, it was interesting to see, because her husband is a Bigfoot enthusiast, and this dude has some pretty cool credentials. Shout out Kip. Yeah, so she yeah, so it was interesting to see her point of view, and how because she believes, I guess she believes that they're real and they're around, and but yeah, it's just like, why, I question why isn't it out there that we know about these things, and I do believe there's a lot of evidence pointing towards that there is, and not only that, but myself having my sightings and experiences, I do believe these things are real, and so yeah, so just moving up to Northern California, I kind of knew that these things were out there, because, like I say, it's in your face. Once you start hitting uh, even like Central California, and nowadays you see a lot more Sasquatch stuff in Southern California also, and Southern California does have its activity as well. Um, but yeah, you start seeing that. So we always kind of knew, and the first time I got up to Humboldt, it was like this magical thing. I had taken a Amtrak and Greyhound, so it was my first time really like traveling like that, and on my own, and I remember reaching there, and it was, they're known for their fog up there too, especially towards the coast. And I just remember it being super foggy, and this like almost this dark eerie, but it wasn't like, it wasn't, I wasn't scared, but I just knew I was in it seemed like a different planet, and I could just see some of the bottoms of some of these redwoods through the fog, and they were just huge, and yeah, I could just feel this vibration, and like I could tell that I was up north, like I felt high up. I was like, yeah, I feel like I'm on top of California right now, man.
Oh,
It's a
cool.
weird feeling. It was really cool. And yeah, just started checking out some of the people in town, and yeah, some strange looking people, and a lot of beards like that, man. Joe, I'm telling you, you two remind me of, like, I could swear you guys popped out of Humboldt somewhere. You guys look like my neighbors or something.
we
And
we get around, but not quite that far.
okay,
Nope.
and
Yeah,
yeah, so
I've been
so
out
really,
west, but not California.
okay, well,
Yeah, when you get to the Northwest, you got all this nature, and like you said, the redwoods, the sequoias. You have all the national parks.
Yeah.
What better place for all these
oh
Bigfoot to
man,
hide out? I mean, you got 9 to 12 foot beings out there. Where are they going to hide? Where the biggest national trees are,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
all the wildlife. You know, a lot of people don't even get a trek back as far as where these things go.
Yep.
And we have a
And
theory. We have a theory that we keep bringing up that we think that's exactly why they created these national parks, not necessarily for our enjoyment, but to protect
yeah.
what's
Yep.
there or to keep us away from them.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely. I'm with that as well. I've heard that as well, and you know, you hear people bring it up, and you know, some people when it's funny when you know maybe for some people when they hear things repetitively, like every show, like oh my god, they're talking about that again. But yeah, no, it's a good, it's an important point, I think, and they bring it back to uh President Roosevelt, right, and his situation. And I forget how it goes, how the details are, but I don't know if it was someone he knew that had supposedly shot a Sasquatch, or it was him, but he had written about it in his diary or something like that, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, so that's interesting. And then I think was it after that that he started the national park thing? I think it's something like
Yep.
that, right?
Hmm.
Right.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
it's really weird. People report, and even in our state parks here in Illinois, they have parts of it that they say is under construction or you can't go there, whatever. Yeah, right. Why
Hmm.
can't we go back there?
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. And then speaking of that, what comes to mind too is another thing that I've been getting into is some of the they call it old, the topic old world or the mud flood situations. And the you know people are starting to dig into some of these old structures and stuff like that, and even geological what we think are possibly mountains and mesas and stuff like that, that these things could be actually living creatures and stuff like that. And so there's a channel out there. I was actually watching a video last night, and this guy is discovering a lot of like old ruins and stuff like this. And he's using Google Maps and everything, and he's noticing a lot of the places where he's actually doing his videos. They're starting to close up and like do things. So it's
Hmm.
almost like they're watching him,
Yep.
and he's like, dude, he's like, I'm starting to hate to show you guys this because he feels like, you know, they're watching, and he's almost like tipping them off, you know. Uh, and so I do believe, yeah, there's stuff like that going on for sure. So when they close a certain area or a certain area is restricted to only certain people or certain personnel and stuff like that, it makes you definitely question things, huh?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Well, it's
and
just like all the structures, that they're finding now, they're actually pyramids, and everybody thought they were mountains or just weirdly
Hmm.
yeah,
shaped, but no, they're actually pyramids
pyramid.
or inside the mesas and
Yep.
Yep.
Pyramids around the whole world.
Yep, and I believe there's a bunch that they recently found in Guatemala again. You know, Guatemala is known for their pyramids, and I believe they found a bunch more there recently. And it's funny because Guatemala is super tiny, and there's just all
Hmm.
these pyramids up in there, and yeah, no, it's fascinating stuff. So that makes me, you know, uh, it kind of reassures me and makes me think, and I do believe that there obviously were ancient cultures with, for me, with high technology. And so yeah, we think of ourselves nowadays as possibly being advanced, and it is weird because you know you got the duality. Yeah, we were communicating through this cool cell phone and these gadgets and stuff, which is amazing stuff, and I appreciate it. I'm happy to be able to use it and everything. But yeah, I do believe that we had there was hardcore technology way back in the day that obviously they're not telling us about. Maybe yeah, some, you know, we're still discovering and learning about. But I do believe that there's a lot more stuff that people do know about, you know, whether it be, we'll call it the Smithsonian, whatever, and different groups like that, or organizations like that. I do believe, yeah, these types of organizations are covering things up, and they're not telling us a whole lot, you know. And I think it sucks because it's affecting our journey in humanity, you know, as a whole, I think, and as individuals. I mean, only imagine if we did have the knowledge that some of these people are holding and stuff like that, and what we could do as a whole, as humanity. I mean, I think we could be doing some big things. You know, we could be all traveling through the stars and other dimensions as one, and experiencing a lot more. You know, and not being stuck in this matrix of theirs. And I do believe there's different matrices on different levels. And yeah, but a lot of us are just stuck in their matrix, you know, which is this 9 to 5, this uh stuck in a box type deal, you know, this programming. uh yeah, I think it gets deep, and so yeah, we have to start unlearning and start remembering, you know, who we are, and what we are, and what we're here for. And yeah, we're all figuring that out at our own pace. And I just feel like a lot of us are also you know, either awake or waking up, and it's a beautiful thing to see that. And yeah, and I'm excited to see where this ship is going, man. I
Yeah.
feel like yeah, a lot of it's going towards a good direction. I see a lot of people, a lot of positive stuff happening too, a lot of good information out there, and a lot of the stuff I'm finding on TikTok too is being shared on TikTok, and some of it, a lot of it's on YouTube as well. Um, so there is stuff online that you can find that's good and positive and that's helping people. And I, as of late, I've been focusing on a lot of that. But also there's the, like I said, duality, the other side of the hand, where there's a lot of dark and occult things that I find interesting as well, you know, and stuff that I wouldn't want to practice or partake in myself. But it's good to be aware of these types of things. And once again, getting to the occult stuff we were talking about going on in Hollywood and all that, you know. And so yeah, just being aware of all this stuff, man. A lot of wild stuff happening. And so bringing it back to Bigfoot and up in Northern California. Yeah, so I ended up moving there. So I would go to visit. I had a friend that was going to the university there. She graduated high school here, and she ended up attending Humboldt State University. And she just knew that area was my vibe. And it's funny because at the time we only knew of Humboldt because of the cannabis. So like out here in Southern California, people would
Right.
bring cannabis and be like, hey, that's that Humboldt. And you know, it was like the best stuff available, you know. And it's funny, at the time they didn't really have, there was names for them and stuff like that, the different strains, I'm sure. But it was, if it was like good quality, everyone would just call it Humboldt, you know, or that chronic weed, whatever, you know. And so that's pretty much because we were young and that's all we knew about Humboldt at the time. So it was like this make believe place. I thought, for some of us, we just thought it was just this strain, but come to find out it's a place and it's a county and it's in California and all this. It's an actual place. So it was funny figuring all that out. And but anyway, so she attended there. She's like, you need to come up here. You need to come up here. This is your vibe and your type of people. And so I made it up there, like I said, on Amtrak and bus, and checked it all out, and got to stay in the college dorm. And it was cool because there was a bunch of other chicks in the dorm, and I was allowed in, and that was fun. And so yeah, I fell in love with the area, and so made it a thing. I had just missed a big reggae festival that they had every year, and it's been going on for, man, maybe 30 years or so. It's called Reggae on the River, and we really wanted to go. It's like a 3-day festival that out in the redwoods, and some of the best music, you know, comes around, and the people come out from out of the hills, and people come from all over the world, you know, to check that out. And so it's a big thing. Good to network and meet people and locals and all that. But anyway, so I made that a ritual. I came back the next year and hit reggae, and it was a blast. Made a lot of connections and made a lot of good friends. And so I would come back every year, and there was other festivals that would happen up there too, a world music festival, and it would just bring like just so many different types of people, and it's just good times. And so every year it'd come back and we'd hit those festivals. And this was about 12 years of doing these festivals. There was a year that I finally I didn't come back down south, man. I met, one of my friends. I met her boyfriend, and he had a piece of property in Southern Humboldt. Old hippie dude, like he's of Irish origin. Old hippie dude, super long beard, long braids, and just really groovy guy, man. And so he had this property, a 40-acre plus, and had orchards and lavender patches and all types of cool stuff growing. And he needed someone to caretake because he had his kids up north and just a bunch of other things going on. And I took him up on the offer, man. I said I'd be willing to learn and I could, I could do this. And yeah, he taught me the ropes, and I fell in love with living that lifestyle, man, out in the hills, and I was able to hack it out, and I would stay during the winter seasons as well. I was there all year, and people would kind of come and go for the seasons and whatnot. And but I stayed up in those hills and really got acclimated and got rooted, and started learning more about Bigfoot and whatnot. My brothers started really putting me onto the YouTube stuff going on online, and I was like really intrigued and really started learning some stuff that people were doing. And I was like, you know what? Let me check out my areas and look around for some of these weird stick structures or some of these possible prints and stuff. So I just started poking around the property. And even before that, I had so at this guy's property, I had a weird experience there. So I was staying at this yurt that he had, and it was like below the main house. And the main house, we called it the Hobbit house. It was weird. Yeah, it was a trippy looking home that was built little by little over the years. And it used to be an old commune there. A bunch of families used to live there and everything. And but when I got there, everyone was gone. That was, I guess, must have been like throughout the 70s and the 80s and 90s. And so yeah, I had one weird experience. So I never really experienced anything at that particular property, and that was in a small town called Honeydew, California. And they call it Honeydew because it's the sweetest spot in Cali. And it was, man. We had a beautiful view of the Kings Mountain Range, and you can see the Mattole, the valley of the Mattole, and the Mattole River cruising by there. And yeah, so my one strange experience that I could remember there, and the weird thing is that the more I think about these things and I learn about these things, the more I start remembering things that happened in my life that were like, oh, here we go. I have had this certain experience, or something related to that. And so this is going to take us to a case of sleep paralysis. So at the bottom of the main house was this old yurt, and it was like a yurt cabin because it was like kind of going. It was weird. It was on stilts, and it was kind of like on the land, and then part of it was on stilts, and it was kind of like dilapidated. And so my thing was to fix it up, and I was staying in that thing, and it was had a wood stove to burn wood and everything, and small kitchen, but it was pretty bad conditions. Most people probably wouldn't stay in there. But for me, it was perfect. I'm like, cool, I got my yurt in the woods now. I'm good to go. It was perfect. And so yeah, I had an episode of sleep paralysis there, and I've had sleep paralysis before, but this one was trippy because I was alone on the property. It's late night. Man, it could have been like maybe October or something like that. But anyway, I was sleeping in the yurt down there, and I noticed that I was having an episode of sleep paralysis, and but I didn't really panic this time. There's other episodes where you panic and get scared and everything. This time I was very aware of what was happening, so I remained calm. I didn't try screaming or yelling or anything. I knew I was alone, but I wasn't like freaking out. And then I noticed that the yurt door was open, and at the yurt door was three silhouettes of three beings, three figures. And I've heard people talk about like shadow figures and the old hag syndrome and stuff like that happening during sleep paralysis. And my other episodes of sleep paralysis, I had never really seen beings that I remember, but I remember just feeling the presence of something being there. Um, but this time I did see three shadowy figures at the door, and I couldn't see eyes or anything. They were just all black, but they seemed huge. And
Wow.
moving fast forward, I ended up moving out of there. And I'm sure I had some experiences with strange lights in the sky, and I'll get back into that when we dive into that topic if we do.
Mm.
um, so fast forward, I ended up when I got into the Bigfoot stuff, I ended up picking up Tom Powell's. He's a great researcher, investigator from Oregon. His book that's called The Locals, and in the cover of The Locals, I forget the name of the artist that illustrated it, but he did a rad job, and it's three Sasquatches, and you could make them out, but it reminded me of those three silhouettes I had seen, and I was like, oh my god,
Oh,
it looks like the
yeah.
cover looks like those beings, and so it made me think like, wow, could it have been them? And another thing, while we're on Honeydew, there was a young lady who lived down in the valley in the Mattole, and she would come up and hang out and say what's up sometimes, and visit, and sometimes even work with us, and I would visit her sometimes down there, and check in on her. And one time the topic of Bigfoot came up, and she's like, what, like, I had mentioned something that had happened on the property, and I forget what it was, and she's like, what, do you guys have Bigfoots on the property? Because we she had mentioned a neighbor of hers down in the valley had a Sasquatch on the property, and I remember at the time I wasn't really as into all this as I am now. So I wish I could have picked her brain a lot more and maybe found out who it was or what. But I remember I was like, wow, kept that in mind, and those were some of the first things I started hearing about, like local stuff happening. But of course, there were stories, when people would come over and stuff like that. Stories would pop up here and there. And so yeah, anyway, we ended up I ended up moving. I lived there for several years, maybe four years or so, and ended up getting my own place on another hill, still in southern Humboldt, but in a different community. And this is the community I've mentioned before. Talk about Murder Mountain. It's uh
Right.
it's it's a documentary on Netflix that you could check out, and it shows you the kind of like the dark side of what's going on up in those hills there, and a lot of it was based in those particular hills that I'm talking about now. And there's another documentary I've mentioned also that Hulu put out. It's called Sasquatch, and it's funny because the names of these documentaries, but this one, Sasquatch, I'll give you a heads up. It's not all Sasquatch, but I'll just leave it at that. But it gives you an idea. Those are, in Mendocino. So that's another county that we border with that's under us. And it's all in that area there. So if you ever want to get a closer look of what these areas look like that I'm talking about, you could check those out, or check some of my videos, because some of the videos are from that
Right.
area there too. So,
So
um,
was your yurt experience, was that the beginning of you starting to get into Bigfoot and search yourself? And I mean, you said the three
no,
big
no.
beings in the doorway.
Yeah, no, no, no. So I had no idea what that was. I just knew it was something, right? And so,
Okay.
like I said, I moved to this, got my own place. My partner and I ended up getting our own place, and so this is the place where things started happening. So I became more aware of some of the activity that is pertained to Sasquatches through YouTube, because of my brother. He started sending me videos, and I started becoming more familiar with some of the people on the YouTube scene and online. And I started, taking notes on what they were doing and what they were finding. And I started, looking myself. First, I started on the property, because the property was 40 acres as well, and just a lot of woods. And I was like, perfect. I don't have to go far. I'll give it a shot around here, and see what we find. And sure enough, I started finding certain little things, certain stick placements, and placement of logs a certain way, and certain trees, and became obviously aware of deadfall and dead trees and stuff like that. And so that's why I love Bigfoot, is because it also it's taught me so much about nature, about myself too. um and so it's just one of those things. It's been very educational for me. So here I started noticing the stick structures, what I called stick structures. Some of them were small and subtle, and others were pretty big and obvious, and it's like, who did this? Was it the old logging? Because there was old logging roads on the property too that weren't used anymore. So there was logging there. Um, and so, yeah, a question could have been like the old loggers or people that were here previously. And, and so, yeah, I started there, started documenting that stuff, and then started making my way down, because down the hill in town, there's redwood groves. And then along the way, there's also state parks, and I started hitting those spots. There was campgrounds there, and a lot of people think that, oh, because that there's campgrounds, that there wouldn't be a Bigfoot or Sasquatch activity around. I mean, I think that's ridiculous. I think a lot of activity happens or gets noticed because of the campgrounds, because there's people there. So you don't always have to be deep in the middle of nowhere to have activity. And yeah, these areas are rural, but like I said, there is people around, but you're far enough. And yeah, so started taking notes of the stick structures around my areas, and really started zeroing in on areas where I started finding a lot of activity. It seemed like the activity was happening a lot there, because there was a constant building of structures, and also deconstruction of structures. And I don't know if that was whoever's building them, or people that would come and maybe knock them down after, or if it was like park rangers, because I have caught park rangers like breaking stuff down before. And in this particular park, there was actually even a sign that said like no stick gathering. And I thought that was pretty funny. And so, yeah, so really got hooked with the structure thing. And I know there's a lot of people that poo poo it, and say that's there's no proof of them doing that, or there's no way that you could tie the two in together, and that's fine. I'm each to each their journey. For some reason, in something inside of me told me that there's something to it. And yeah, I started finding these things. And yeah, maybe some of them are bushcraft, or whatever, made by humans, forts by kids. But I do think there's something to them, because to some of these things, because strange things have happened to me around some of these things. um, One, for instance, it was an apple that had fallen from the top of a redwood tree down into the middle of this structure that was kind of dilapidated. It wasn't, it seemed like it was falling apart. And I was checking it out, and I had just, while I was checking it out, I wasn't doing the video yet. I was just taking a look inside, and this green apple, came flying from the top of the tree and landed in the middle of the structure, and it scared me. And I was like, "What the hell was that?" And so I look up, thinking it's like a squirrel. It's got to be a squirrel or something. And it was weird, because though it had a bite out of it. It wasn't a big bite. It was maybe like a human size, but a good sized bite. But it had like the browning already on it, like it had been bitten a little while ago, and started browning. And I just thought that was the weirdest thing, And then I didn't see any squirrel, I didn't see any crow or any animals or anything at the top of the tree. And I was just like, man, one of those things just happened to happen right there, right at that time, and it landed right in the middle of the structure as I was looking at it. And yeah, just things like that. And we found weird stuff around these structures too. I found strange things like feathers, seashells, weird knots of like grasses, seaweed, sometimes even twigs, sticks are sometimes tied into knots and weaved and stuff like that. Um, and which once again could be people, and like I said, these areas, there is a lot of what we call hippies, a lot of just open people, open-minded people. So like, a lot of these people are, I could imagine, would be doing stuff like that. And then maybe some of these barefoot tracks that we're finding near some of these things could be human too, because a lot of them tend to be human looking, but I have found some that were very odd but human looking. Some were more like box shaped looking tracks. Um, some had strange looking toes and stuff like that. Just little things that would just kind of throw it off and make you question, and to me also is like, yeah, why wouldn't they, build things like that? And not to say that they're
Right.
shelters, but maybe markers. um yeah, so many questions about the structure, but it is a phenomenon, I think, and people are experiencing it. And so I started sharing and documenting what I was finding, and started posting. And some of my first videos are really weak. I didn't even know how to upload stuff, and I just was trying to like express myself and show like, oh, here we have these Bigfoots around. And so I started off with like just showing some goofy stuff like the local stickers and just Bigfoot things like that. But then slowly started showing like some of the structure finds and stick figurations, stick creations, and that, just kind of following that, led me to where I'm at now, I believe. Um, and yeah, it's weird. And sometimes there's small little things, small little creations, or sometimes they're huge, like creations. And it's like, whoa, it seems like a team of people or a team of whoever, a construction crew was here or something, hard hat area. So yeah, it makes you really wonder. And yeah, and I do believe there's something to it, like I said. And some
Right.
people will make fun of you because of it, man. And I get it. I totally get it. Yeah, if you can't prove it, then hey. But I don't, once again, like I say, I don't like to delete video. There's certain things that I just like to keep on file, just in case, as
Mhm.
a record, because it could be something that you could refer back to in the future if we find something new out that maybe pertains to some of this information that you're gathering.
Yeah, that's the one thing that since 2020, including us, with all these YouTube channels popping up, there's such a big community now
Mm-hmm.
of like minds and believers, that people are opening up finally, who are probably afraid to tell their stories, are coming in chat and telling us their stories, or coming online, and telling them.
Mm-hmm.
Before, like you said, people were afraid, because people would chastise them or tell them they're
Mm-hmm.
crazy or whatever.
Oh yeah.
And now,
Yeah.
since we were forced to stay home and people are finding things to do and creating these channels, we got this great big community, and everybody's just making the rounds and finding out all these different views, and it's just been wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, and with that, comes the negative part of things, and I bring it up because it's a reality. And yeah, I just try to avoid all that stuff. And so um yeah, just keeping, people, it sounds dumb, but yeah, keeping it real. And yeah, that's all I'm doing is sharing my experiences. I don't try to embellish anything. And yeah, things, so like when people talk about like, oh, they, this and this and this and this have happened, I used to question it too, and I still question it. When people, have multiple experiences or encounters, it's like, how is it that this person is having so many experiences with this or that, and I believe it. I get it now. Is Yeah, I believe you could have multiple experiences with things, and it is happening. And so my thing has happened over the years, being out there, and and like I said, documenting has been one of my favorite things. And for a while there, I had a nice little set of different gadgets and stuff, and I'm kind of back to square one, where I need to upgrade on gadgets and new cameras and everything to bring better quality. But I've always just documented, even like the dumbest, what most or some might think the dumbest thing. I'll document, and I'll just keep it on file there. And yeah, I think some fruits have flourished out of practicing that, and just getting better. And I've mentioned just like trying to be like John Wayne with the gun and the camera, because yeah, things happen quick sometimes, and you just
Mhm.
gotta be on it, so you don't miss it. And like I say, you do miss a lot. There's a lot that we miss, and I just feel like I don't try to get too hard on myself on those misses, because I feel like, yeah, those things are just, I guess, or personal, or meant just for you, and not meant to be documented or shared. And so yeah, a lot of weird stuff has happened in my life, and I believe a lot of weird stuff happens in everyone's life. It's just a matter of being aware to the of what's going on. And so yeah, I'm having fun just like trying to document some of this weird stuff. And so on the property, I started noticing, like I said, this possible stick structures, and then weird vocalizations. We had your normal wildlife, of course, known for bear, mountain lion, foxes, and all that fun stuff, in which I love documenting as well, and I love seeing them. Um, yeah, vocalization, strange vocals. You'd get your, whatever, your coyotes, your owls, and stuff like that. But there was, several times where I would start hearing what I thought was maybe a fox or a coyote, and but it almost had this laughing hyena type sound to it. And I remember seeing a video online. I think it was the Umatilla vocals. There's some vocals online from the Umatilla Reservation, if I'm not mistaken, of these vocals of something sounding like a hyena, and it was almost like it sounded like a laughter. And this is what it sounded like. And so I was able to document it, and I think it was like the first video I posted, and I put question, Bigfoot mimicking a coyote or something like
Mhm.
that. And I started there, and I was like, man, this is pretty cool, be able to record a video, and question it, and put it out there for people to see. And so I got the bug, and I just started going all out every time I had a chance to, cruise around the property, or to get down somewhere on down on the hill to one of those parks or a river or whatever. And the cool thing is that, just with work and life, sometimes we'd have to travel to town or whatever. It would be along the ways of all these spots. So I would go do a dump run, or go do grocery shopping up in town, and it's a 2-hour trip. Along the way, I'd stop at all my state parks and my little areas. And so it's just
Yep.
like an all in one deal. And man, I was just hitting it there for a while. And yeah, was just uploading and sharing out. And I could have done a lot better with organizing my channel and everything. It's a big organized mess, and I'm working on it. But yeah, no, as of late, I just been really staying on top of just sharing stuff that I hadn't released, and some new stuff that I'm getting. So another thing that I had learned about was the orbs. Everyone talks about the orbs of light and stuff, and it was just like, what? And when I thought about it, I was like, I had seen strange lights before, but this stuff started happening on the property. And this is like once I started getting into Bigfoot, and then I learned that, some of these people were seeing orbs and experiencing orbs around Sasquatches and stuff. And so I was already getting into the stick structure stuff and all this, keeping an ear out for vocals, and thought I was hearing vocals and recording, and, you know, and then I start seeing the orbs of light at home.
Mm.
I'm just like, no way, this is not happening, and but I had the camera there and started recording this stuff, and sure enough, it's coming out on camera. And yeah, these things started like appearing, disappearing, changing colors, and I describe
Mhm.
them as stars. They look like stars, and they would get bright, bright, bright sometimes, and then they would get, and sometimes when they get bright, they're like the rays, almost like sun rays, would come out and
Right.
get
Yep.
all weird, and they would dance around, and then they would dim up, and then sometimes just completely disappear or pop
Yep.
back
I've
up.
seen them.
You know what I'm talking
Mhm.
about, right?
Yep.
And
Yeah.
See,
so,
that's the
Yeah.
thing that we believe in. And you just hit three major things. We talk about. once you open that door and you step through, whether it's Bigfoot or paranormal or UFO, then you start experiencing. Now, whether you're raising your consciousness and are having stuff this specifically come for you, or that whether your frequency's high, then you start seeing stuff, then you start experiencing orbs, or you start experiencing shadows, and the list is just on and on, because we feel it's all connected, whether it's the Bigfoot and the elementals, and using the trees, or it's the orbs showing up and
UFOs.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so all this stuff started happening. And so once again, it was like I feel like and I request, uh to my creator, a confirmation from things sometimes, could you confirm this for me, or could you validate, this for me, is it this? And then, and I feel like the universe answers. And so, yeah, I felt like that was almost like a confirmation for me, like, yeah, these things do come around these other things, or these things are related to these things somehow, so boom, that started happening. So started documenting the orbs, and yeah, the orbs started popping up in different places too, but for the most part on the property, it was almost like a nightly thing. And I would get my regulars that would pop up in their regular areas and do their thing, and then others that would come and in different parts of the property, different colored ones, some up in the sky, some down in the woods. And there was a couple times where these orange ones, and it was like, I don't know, it was like a big, so these things, whatever it was, landed. It was on the ground, and it was 3 in the morning. I got woken up by something, and something told me to look out the window. And that would happen a lot with the other orbs, but this particular time, this orange one, and it looked like a big bright mass. It looked like the ground was on fire.
oh,
And then around it was a bunch of other little, what I call like sprites, smaller orbs, just kind of like moving around in a weird way too. And I was like, what the heck? And so I grabbed the phone, and boom, started recording, and I was able to record that. And so I will post that in my community page today. I know there's other videos that I said I need to post and catch up on the community page, and I'll be doing that. But I'll give you a version. I sent you a version also, and I don't know if you want to share that one out, because I'm sure people will want to check that out. And
yeah,
so, of course, while I'm documenting, one of the cats, one of my cats jumped on me and kind of ruined the end of the video there. I could have kept going, but the cat jumped on me and I cut it off. But I did get pretty good footage of it. So that was trippy. And that happened a couple times, to where that thing like that showed up, whatever it was. And like I said, so I think it looked like a maybe a big bunch of the orbs had just gotten together like that, and some were just like on the outskirts or something, or I don't know. It was very odd. But so a lot of that happening there. And I noticed that there's a particular rock there that was pretty much borderline on the between the property and someone else's property. And it was a huge, like a massive rock. Okay, it's like almost like a man, I want to say maybe 500 feet or more. I could send you a picture of that too. Something about that rock, I think the orbs would pop out there a lot. Like I said, this regular one would always pop out on that rock. And so I just feel like there was something about that rock that was either generating something, or something, maybe some sort of material in the rock or something like that, that was causing it. And I've also heard that there's orbs that are caused due to like certain minerals, I think, or some certain things in the earth that could cause these things. And then also the earthquake lights that I've been hearing as of recent
right,
again.
Oh, wow.
And
Yeah.
certain, yeah. And then now I'm becoming more familiar with the ball of lightning and things like that. And so,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
so yeah, so there is natural things, I think, natural phenomenons also that could cause these things. But I felt like, yeah, I was having, because I would stare at these things, and I felt like after a while I was getting almost like some sort of communication. I was getting these thoughts, and almost like I was communicating with it, and it wasn't for the most part it wasn't negative, but it would get to a point sometimes, like it was reacting to what I would be asking or saying. And I would get a little scared, because I was out there alone sometimes, or my partner would be asleep, And I just felt like, man, I hope I don't get abducted, because I wasn't sure. I was like, man, are these things, are they UFOs? Are they these beings? I'm not sure what they are, And then at that time, I already started learning about the 411 phenomenon, which I mean, I hit that stuff hard too. I was really fascinated. I'm really fascinated by the phenomenon. And I know how people feel about Pilates and stuff like that, and people, tried pulling up dirt and all this stuff. And for me, it's all about the 411, the information, and characters aside, right?
Right.
But yeah, learning about all this stuff, and I was just like, oh man, I hope I don't, go 411 here, because I'm starting to stare at this thing for a while, and I feel like we're communicating here, and it's getting a little scary. So I would take my little break and go back in the house and do whatever. And a lot of times this would be like 2, 3 in the morning, midnight. And so yeah, man, it's kept going on, for years. And so a lot of these videos are posted. A lot of them were live streams. Also, thankfully, I was able to have service. And the quality, it is what it is. But I'm just glad to be able to have that documentation as a reference to these things. And yeah, so that started happening in all that. And yeah, learning about Bluff Creek, also, learning that it was in the county. I was like, wow, I really would love to go check out where this all happened at. And I mentioned I got the bug, so started really digging for all types of Bigfoot stuff, stories, whatever I could hear. I was just absorbing. And I forget how it worked out, but we got the invite to Bluff Creek. And so my son and I went, and it was just an epic time. A gentleman by the name of Rowdy Kelly, the homie, gave us a little tour of actually where Patty walked and everything, because the Bluff Creek Project, which is a group locally in the county there, have been doing a lot of work on pinpointing where Patty was, where Roger and you know all them were, and what trees were where, and they've been doing a really amazing job doing that. So it was awesome, to be able to get that little tour, and yeah, get tapped in with those guys. And so since then, I experienced the Bluff Creek thing, and let me tell you, it's you should put that on your list for sure. It's just something about that place. You just feel the vibes also. You're already in Humboldt, and like I mentioned, the vibes, but when you're in Bluff Creek, it just intensifies that much more.
Have
You
you
could,
ever gone to Mount Shasta?
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So Humboldt, so being on the coast, they say that there's these underground caverns that connect from the coast of Humboldt County to Mount Shasta, because there's a highway.
Oh,
There's a highway,
okay.
highway 299, and so if you take that in from inland of Humboldt County, which is most likely the town of Arcata or Eureka, which is the biggest town in the county, and you go inland, that'll take you towards Willow Creek. And Willow Creek is kind of like the base. That, I mean, everything in Willow Creek is Bigfoot. The hotel, there's a Bigfoot steakhouse, Bigfoot. There's a Bigfoot dispensary now there.
Are you kidding me?
Yes. All right.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so they got the good stuff there. And
Good strains.
so yeah, so if you keep going on so Willow Creek was kind of like the headquarters for when the whole Patterson situation was going on, because north of Willow Creek is where the Hoopa Reservation, and then going up into those mountains there is where Bluff Creek is. And so when they had all that going on, like, I guess Willow Creek was kind of like a home base for, like, I would imagine, supplies and you know uh services and whatnot. So, and that it's quite a distance, even from Willow Creek to Bluff Creek, even from the Hoopa Reservation up to Bluff Creek. It's a mission for me,
Wow.
at least. Yeah. So even being in the county, so me being in the county is still, I mean, from where I was in the southern part of the county, it would still be a couple hours drive to get to Bluff Creek. So
Oh,
it's
wow.
it's a mission. Even so, a couple years back, I was living. Actually, I've lived in different parts of the county, which has also been a blessing, because I've been able to do my thing in different areas, and it's a big county. Um, I was living up on Waterman Ridge, which is the hills above Willow Creek, is a certain area, and we were working for a company there that had a property, and so I got to stay pretty much a couple years there, and and yeah, had some strange stuff happen there. And so yeah, even from that area, I'm telling you, to get to Bluff Creek is still a drive, man. It's still a drive.
Wow.
Still out there. And so yeah, checking out, being able to go up there, and so since the first time, I've gone back several other times, got to meet several other guys that make it a ritual also to go up there. I mean, that it's like the Bigfoot mecca, for most people, and uh, and so everyone tends to concentrate there, which is great. But for me, living there, I was able to explore the whole rest of the county, like a lot of other
Oh,
parts of the county. I mean, there's a lot of other parts I haven't gone yet. Also, it's a huge county, but there's a whole lot I've gotten to cover, and it's been pretty cool. And so, a lot of that it's been uploaded to the channel, and like I said, a lot of it is short little videos. Some of them are longer, some of them are live streams, and I love it. I love being out in the woods, love being out in areas that I know that they have been, or they're where they're at, and or where I think they're at, and bringing the camera with us, and bringing you guys along, and so with that, yeah, I just feel like a lot of the stuff we've been discovering and finding has been getting better and better. I mean, recently up in Oregon, I found a small teepee structure in a lake area, and near the teepee structure, not too far away from it was several trackways and barefoot tracks, but at the same time there was what I believe and found human tracks also. But these other
Mm.
tracks really stood out to me. Like I said, they had these boxy look to them. They were really deep, sunk into the mud. Some of them were in the tightrope fashion. Some of them were just kind of all over the place. They weren't all perfect, and it just really got my attention. And I just figured, this thing being really close to that stick structure, really, I don't know, it's really raising a flag to me. And so and I can't put one and two together quite yet there, because there wasn't any tracks inside of the structure, or like directly right next to it. But I'm just thinking, like, okay, well, whoever did this, and if these Sasquatches do build these, then possibly these tracks here are of whoever built this. I don't know. But anyway, there was several size tracks, and I thought it was a pretty cool find. I did my first castings of tracks there, and so yeah, this particular lake has history. So this is near. So we also live in Oregon now, and this particular area, and this is like 15 minutes from the house there, um, is known as Applegate Lake, and the history there goes back to where these miners were in the area, and were having these sightings of Sasquatches, and finding tracks. And so fast forward to the 70s, I guess this wildlife group had built a trap for the
oh,
Sasquatch, and so it's known as the Southern Oregon Bigfoot Trap, and
Wow.
that's there in right near the lake. And
yeah.
but the trap, you actually have to hike a trail, and it's about a mile in, and it's still there to this day, and it's not in use, but the metal gate is still there, and it's all graffitied up, so it's kind of like a little hangout for the young folk, and but usually no one's there when I go. And the first time I got to go, I remember my partner's cousin told me about it and was like, "You got to check this out." And I checked it out, and I found a teepee structure, and a structure next to the trap. And at the time, it was still kind of fresh, but I did make it a point to document it. So I did document it, but I didn't document it as thorough as I do things now. But I did find that interesting, and so I questioned it once again. I was like, well, could it have been someone maybe leaving a message for the Sasquatch and building a structure and seeing if maybe they'd react to it or something like that, or was it them, you know? So I just feel like they're still in the area, and you know, Oregon is well known also for its Bigfoot activity, and I found a lot of the similar structures up in the Oregon area, and some of these structures I'm finding not only in the woods but on beaches, and on
Wow.
these
Okay.
beaches, where I'm finding these structures is where a lot of these reports are coming from also, that are being
You
documented on the BFRO, and reports that I'm hearing through locals and other sources. So I
do you
find that
feel a lot of energy around them, like a different energy or vibration around these structures?
Um, well, I do get like a nice little. I feel like a rush, and I guess a boost of energy when I find
Okay.
them, because it's kind of like when
Okay.
you find something you're looking for, like whether it be mushrooms or you know, or you know, if you're hunting or you know, you catch a fish or something. It's kind of like that. Oh
Right.
wow, you know, type of. So I guess there is
Yeah.
that little boost of energy. And so, like, yeah, when you find these things, it's kind of like, oh, wow. But I've heard of people
Mm.
trying to bring some sort of meters to see if they could check for
Hmm.
any energy points there. And I find that
Right.
interesting. And getting into these structures, I've gone as far as there was a group out there that had also mentioned, and I wanted to kind of do something like this to see if some of these structures were aligning with the cosmos, to see if some of it were lining with maybe stars and or
Mm. Right.
planetary
Right.
alignment or anything like that. I know it's a little far out, but you know, I thought it was pretty a cool thought. And because some of these structures have entrances, so they are almost like inviting, like to come in, sit down. You'll
Hmm.
find stumps in them sometimes, and evidence of like sometimes even human trash and stuff like that. And it could be that people reuse them after, or people build them
Yeah.
and you know, use them and whatever, trash them. But
Now,
a lot of times, what's
are the
that?
doorways facing one direction? Do you find?
I've noticed a lot of the doorways sometimes are facing not towards the water. So, like, I would imagine if it's
Hmm.
someone building a structure, maybe you're there with your partner having a romantic evening or whatever, you know, build a little structure, bottle of wine, facing the ocean, right? Looking at the
Right.
water and the sunset. But I noticed some of these things are facing away from the water.
Hmm.
And I'm just like, why would you? So I'm thinking maybe wind, maybe you're trying to block the wind because it does get windy in some of those
That's
areas.
interesting.
Well, I was kind
Yeah,
of
Huh.
wondering, you mentioned star constellations. I was wondering if the doorways are facing a certain
Star.
star constellation or
right.
sunset or
Hmm.
Yeah.
sunrise, just like
Mhm.
the Stonehenge, I thought maybe there was a correlation.
Interesting.
Exactly. And I think someone, one of our friends, I think recently mentioned, and they could maybe remind us if they hear this, they were mentioning about something, yeah, about certain structures bringing like the X structure or something like that, that when the sun hits it, it does something to the light. And I found that pretty
Hmm.
interesting. Well, you know, so there's a lot of questions to ask, you know, and that's why I think it's cool to be able to document some of this stuff, because if you aren't doing it, then and only a few are, then you know, that's all we're gonna have, you know. So someone's got to
Right.
do it, and it's fun. It's fun, you know. It's like I mentioned, mushroom picking and stuff like that. Like it's one of those things that I could mushroom pick and Bigfoot at the same time, or you could go out looking for plants or picking wild food or whatever, and you're bigfooting at the same time, fishing and bigfooting at the same time, you know,
Yep.
camping,
Well,
bigfooting.
I've
So
been fascinated. I've been hearing stories, and not just you, but others, that they're finding these blue marbles just way up there in the forest. And I know
right.
you are one of them. So,
Yeah,
what
yeah,
is
and
the mystery behind these blue marbles?
so I have no idea. At first, I thought it was ridiculous. Like it was ridiculous. Like marbles, dude. Like, are you missing
Right.
one? Like, because I found a few. And it's funny because I just found one the other day, and I was gonna post the video, but I was like, you know what? People are gonna be like, dude, and I was gonna title it "You're missing a marble" or something, because I found it here in the city on the sidewalk, and it does have a little blue in it, and I was like, hey, I don't know, is it a
Wow. Are
question,
they
you know?
always blue?
No. I found some different color ones, and
Okay.
I think the blue thing, I don't know if it's like, yeah, something was happening with the blue items. I forget who started it,
Hmm.
but people were starting to find blue items and structures, and that thing took it got legs and ran because yeah, people started finding, and people still find stuff, and
Wow.
it happened to me, random blue things. Sometimes it could be the smallest little thing, and there's a blue item, and I don't know if it's, I don't think I'm projecting and manifesting that.
Right.
I think it's just there's something to it for sure. But I found other random stuff. I found like car
Hmm.
tires uh inside of the structures, at the
Mhm.
beach. I'm like, how did it get, either the car tire washed up, or I'm just like, who the hell brought this, and you find the weirdest things sometimes in there. And some of us are like, all right, people talk once again hippies, or people will be like, oh, it's tweakers, or stuff like that. And who knows, I don't know, but there's just like little things, I'm telling you, and I feel guided to these things too, almost like the UFO thing. Like, I'll
Mhm.
hear something, I'll feel something, and it's like, hey, go check over here or go look
Right.
behind that. And sure enough, there's a teepee right there. It's like, dude, what are the chances of a teepee being here? I don't know. It's kind of weird. And like the UFO thing's been happening. Like, I get a feeling, and like, go outside. So right before the show, I was
Mhm.
telling Gerald, right before the show, Gerald's like, I'm ready, buddy. I'm like, dude, I'm filming. I just filmed
Yeah.
another one of those objects right before the show. I was like, you want it for the show? You could, because I gave you guys a shout out. So I'll post that later today, and a shout out to you guys. I
Yeah.
saluted the
Yes.
UFO for you guys, and
Yeah. Send it to us. We'll put it on our channel too
put it on
for
your
Right.
you.
channel. There you go.
Yeah. Well, we
Cool.
got a
And
picture of your blue marble. Where did you find this blue marble at?
so that blue marble was in Mendocino County, which is right under Humboldt, and we had gotten this Airbnb for my wife, and it's this beautiful spot right on the coast, and at the bottom, so we're up on a cliff, and at the bottom of the cliff was this beach, and from the house I could see that there was structures down there, and I was like, what? I'm
Hmm.
going down there. And sure enough, we go down there, and there's all these like teepee structure. It was like a village. It looked like a village was down there. And the weird thing is
Wow.
that the particular beach was closed. And I was like, well, why are you guys closed? And this particular
Oh.
beach had a river, the mouth of a river flowed into this to the ocean there. So you have a river, and you know how some people believe that these things travel through rivers and stuff like that, which I there's something to rivers and waterways, I do believe. And so it was perfect. You have the salt water, fresh water, and then the forest all around you. And so I recently also found out that in this area, back in the 60s, I found a report from a young lady that had a sighting of two Sasquatches up in that same area, and they were supposedly staring or hunting sheep or something like that. And this was
Hmm.
back in the 60s, I believe. And they posted a picture of the area, and it's the same beach where these structures
Oh,
are.
Wow.
wow.
Okay. And so I make my way down to the beach there, and I start making my way towards the structures, and I got the camera rolling. And at the base of my feet, I find a blue marble.
Oh.
Okay. And I'm just like, all right, what are the chances? And I mentioned these beaches aren't like Southern California beaches. They're not packed full of kids. There's like no sand castles building. There's not many people. If you look at my videos, there's hardly ever people in the videos. And so yeah, find the blue marble, start going to these teepee structures, and it was
Hmm.
just there were structures all over. I just had a blast documenting them, and so I even gave a shout out to Mike Patterson on that one, because he's the one who brought the marble situation to my attention in Sasquatch, Ontario. And it's a bummer that as of late, Sasquatch Ontario has had his card pulled. They're trying to pull his card. It seems like people trying to say that he's hoaxing and whatnot. I have no idea. I just feel like I vibrate to where I feel the truth is. So if someone is explaining something and it resonates with me, then hey, I'm gonna listen to you. And so he had this marble phenomenon happening, right? And so it happened to me, and it was just like, wow. And there's other people in some of our groups that have had that happen, and
Mm-hmm.
some of these people are, I mean, on my list, they're top notch. They find structures all the time, and they have this other relationship with whatever it is going on, and I could tell. And that's how I go, with my information, and where I go to my sources is just, if it vibes with me, then I roll with it. And so, yeah, so since then I have found a couple other marbles, but they've been in town. And like I said, this one was across the street from my sister's, where I'm working at, I mean, where I'm staying at. And so it happened in the city, so it could just be that someone lost the marble and they
Right.
found
Right.
it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's one of those things that, because also the other day I heard that, and it was like a reminder. This person was talking about how they get left feathers, coins.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, like, animals, even dead animals come to mind, because I've gotten dead animals left on my deck. And it could have been the dog or the cats. I don't know. But some of these things were like skulls of certain animals that I don't think my dog would have messed with, and it was just placed in a certain area that was just odd. It seemed placed. And so, yeah, I do
Wow.
believe that some of
Hmm.
these things could communicate and gift and do things like that, place things like coins, and so marbles could be one of those things. So
Right.
Yeah.
yeah,
You
weird
want to show
stuff.
the picture of the blue marble?
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a video.
Yeah.
There's full video of that too. And I could I'll post that in the community, and I could share that video. That one's like a 15-minute video, and you'll see in some of the structures you'll find bottles and stuff like that. But those are things also that we keep an eye out for. There's a blue ball. So this is a different beach. This is up in Humboldt, and this one I call Bigfoot Beach also, because this spot just produces so many structures. It's crazy. So this was
Wow.
next to a bigger structure. It was kind of like a hut teepee type deal, and yeah, it could have been a person walking their dog that lost their blue ball, but it was a blue ball next to the structure, and next to this blue ball was a small little Jenga looking structure, and I think I sent a picture of that too. But
Yeah. See, I don't know if I have them in the right order
see,
or not.
that one was next to the blue ball also, and next to that one
Wow.
was another hut type deal. And what
Hmm.
they do a lot of the time is they'll use that big base, that big stump, and a lot of times
Yeah.
those are base. Yeah, they use that as base, and they'll build on top of those. There it is. See, there's that one, and that one had the weird black tire in it, and you could see some of the like that one piece that's sticking up. You could tell that it's cut. But the thing is that all this is
Hmm.
driftwood. It's driftwood, so all this stuff is being washed up from like the rivers and people's properties and the local
Wow.
mills and stuff like that. That's a backside. And then, so with the structures, what happens a lot too is, like, I get these forks, or what we call tridents, and they seem to always be incorporated in these structures. I mean, it's
Hmm.
almost like 90-95% of the time they're always going to be like a fork or a trident type thing incorporated. And for me, it seems like almost like a signature, you know,
Hmm.
of whoever's doing this. And so when I see the forks and the thing, I'm like, yup, it's them. Whoever's doing these, that's their little signature. And so I always keep an eye out for
Wow.
forks and the tridents of trees, and in different forms, not only in the structure huts and stuff like that, but sometimes in the big X's and just the trees in themselves. Sometimes those trees are the ones that will have the structure under it at the base, or will have something weird about it. It's like they seem to like these trees or whatever. But yeah, and with all that, like I said, there's the orbs, and then comes the UFOs. We've seen a lot of UFO sightings on
Yep.
the property in the county, and that goes way back to when I was a kid too. I mean, ever since I could remember, I remember seeing strange things in the skies and stuff like that. And I also mentioned my dad's. Recently, I found out part of place in Mexico where is known for UFO and alien activity, and I'm like, wow, okay,
Hmm.
this is interesting. So hopefully this summer we'll be hitting that spot there. There, I think, is a conference that's coming up, and hopefully I can make it out, because the family does have a cabin there. So hey, I got a free spot to stay. I just need
There
some
you
gas
go.
money to
Yeah.
get
Cool.
there. Yeah. So the
That,
UFO stuff. I know we're coming up to an hour and a half here, and I could keep going, man. Uh, yeah, just a lot going on as of late, and it's nothing. It's for me, it's nothing new, and I know there's a lot more people having these experiences and documenting and everything, and
Hmm.
it's going down. And I know you guys are having your experiences as well,
Yeah.
and it's just a wild time to have all this going on with everything else happening in the UFO field. But yeah, definitely keep an eye on the skies, keep your cameras ready. And like I
Right.
said, I got some fresh stuff from today that I'll be sharing later on. And yeah, thank you once again for having me on. I mean, hopefully we could do a round two and get into more of this
Yes.
stuff.
Yeah.
We will definitely have you back.
Now
And
you're just doing this on your phone, catching the UFOs here recently. It's just
Yeah,
on your
so
phone.
yeah, so right now everything's on my phone. I did have a couple of nice, I had a nice Canon camera and a Sony HD Handycam, and I lost those things along the way. Things happen, and some of my gadgets I've lost here and there. But I'm getting myself back together, and things are coming back already. I've been gifted several gadgets, and I got a few new
Good.
gadgets, new phone, and things are coming back. And so get ready, and yeah, it's all happening right now, y'all. It's
That's
happening.
awesome.
So
Yeah.
well,
I can't wait to get back in the mountains. I'll be out in the mountains soon, and stay tuned. I still have got more footage from up north and everything, so I'll be posting stuff as well. And yeah, let's do a round two, you guys, because I feel like
yeah, we
Yes,
will.
I could keep
definitely.
going.
We'll have you
Yeah.
back, and we'll get an update on all the stuff you're finding. And I
Right.
just want to tell you that I believe that you're raising your frequency and you're having all these things happen and experiences. Because I mean, I just get all these cool vibes and high frequency
Hmm.
from you. Just being in video with you.
Right.
Yeah, no, and likewise, and I feel like this is why this is happening, because if we weren't on the same frequency, we wouldn't be here. So
Right.
Yeah.
good job, you guys. I love your vibe, and yeah, let's keep it going and sharing these good vibe ripples.
Right.
Now I've had your stuff scrolling across the bottom. I go ahead and mention all your socials for you and your
Right on.
email before you leave.
Yeah, so you could on YouTube it's brown_dwarf. And on TikTok, it's brown_dwarf 420. And you could email me anything, any videos, encounters, or anything you'd like to question or talk about. And I'm open to sharing any of my footage to get it analyzed or whatever. You can email me norcalbigfootproject@gmail.com.
All
All
right.
right. Awesome.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
once again, thank you, and you guys
Thank
stay
you.
blessed.
Yeah.
We're going to drop you down, say bye to you, but don't go anywhere. We want to talk to you for a little bit, and
Mhm.
we'll go ahead and end the show. Then we'll be right there with you.
Cool. Thank you.
Thanks for
Yeah.
coming.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us tonight, and happy Father's Day once again.
Yep, this has been great. We just love talking to him, and and all our guests have been like this. Brown
Yeah.
Dwarf has just been so amazing, and all our other guests that we have. The stuff is also interconnected. You just
Mhm.
have these high frequencies and vibes off of all these people, and I feel that's why whether it's paranormal, Bigfoot, UFOs, it's all interconnected, and they're attracted to these individuals. I believe because they're raising their consciousness.
Well, I believe we're all meant to meet each other also. I mean, we're all connected, we're all meant to be friends and be in this a community. So we just want to thank you so much for watching tonight, and I'm glad you enjoyed our guests. And we will be here Wednesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday morning at 12:30 Central, and be here again next Sunday.
And don't forget to check out William's platforms.
Yep.
And we're broadcasting on his platforms, and he's broadcasting on ours. So all of you in William's chat, you're seeing our show and vice versa. And we're just on, all the time. We're getting more and more shows all the time, between William and we might have another show possibly coming up sometime. And Dennis Carroll is on the weekend shows with William. He's got a new show getting ready to come out, and you'll have to look forward to that. And we will see you guys all
Bye.
Wednesday.
Sasquatch, Ghost, Dogman, Aliens, Demons, Shadow People, Skinwalkers, even the Fae. Our universe is vast, dark, and wrought with infinite unexplained phenomena. We have tasked ourselves with assisting humanity in finding the keys to unlock the mysteries that abound in and around our world. What we intend to reveal behind the curtain of darkness may very well invoke those fears long tucked away in our memories. We will meet that fear head on as we strive to shine the light of understanding on these phenomena. The goal is to arm you with the power of knowledge to confront and even combat these entities. We welcome you to join us on our quest. We are Midwest Night Watchers.